Greetings, everybody. My name is Eric Stevens. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Engagement with 4Point, and welcome to this edition of 4Point Pathways, our podcast where we talk about forms and a lot of other stuff. Today, what I want to talk about is to answer a question that a lot of folks have asked us over the last little while. About a year and a half ago, the Adobe Document Cloud folks, and those are the folks that make Acrobat Reader. They make all the powerful PDF tools that you use on a regular basis. They introduced what they call a Doc Cloud API, a Document Cloud API. And that API allows you to use the Adobe environment to render PDFs. Wait, that sounds a lot like what Adobe Experience Manager Forms does. Well, yeah, one half of it. It allows you to create PDF documents. And we get a lot of questions where folks go, hold on, how does that compare to AEM Forms? Should I use this? Should I use the Doc Cloud stuff or should I use AEM? Where do they fit? What are the different issues associated? What are the pros and cons associated with? And I wanted to explore those in a little bit more detail to give you some background on it. So first, let me explain how the two different environments work so that you can then understand some of the differences. In the case of the Document Cloud environment, it is an API provided by Adobe. It is a public-facing API. You can actually go on to the Adobe website, to the Document Cloud. You can get access to it. You can test it. You can run through it. It's very, very straightforward. There's steps you have to go through, but it allows you to give it a template, give it data, and merge the two pieces together and produce a PDF document out of it. AEM Forms has the capabilities to do that exact same thing. You can take data, you can merge it into a template, and you can get a PDF out of it that has that information merged together with it. But there are some critical differences between the two. So let's talk about how AEM does it, and then I'm going to contrast that with how the Document Cloud does it. So how AEM does it is we have a template built around what's called an XDP. And this was built in the Form Designer. The Form Designer is a product that has been updated and enhanced. Well, it evolved from the original JetForm Central Pro designers, from the lifecycle designers. So it's been updated, modified, and added to for 20 years. And it is focused on building form templates. And it has inside of it a lot of powerful characteristics that allow you to manipulate forms in a very, very efficient way, so that when the data is merged in, the form can adjust its behavior, adjust its look and feel, restructure itself, do all sorts of interesting things along with it. It also has built-in characteristics that allow you to very specifically place and organize things. So for example, it understands pagination. It knows automatically that this is page 2 of 5 when the document's being rendered. It knows that the header has to go here, that this field must be in this position. It can lock it down so that you can never get it wrong. It'll always be in this position. There's a lot of power and capability. That then inside of Adobe Experience Manager Forms is then combined with a very, very powerful data engine that can reach out through a wide range of different mechanisms and take data. It can be passed data in, it can be passed data in different formats. It can go and read data directly. So it can go read a database or read a REST API, pull that data. It has an entire code language inside of there so we can restructure the data if we need to. If we get a piece of data passed in and we go, oh, but that needs to be this way and we need to do extra work for it, or we need to merge multiple APIs together, we can do that all inside the AEM environment. That's built on a server. So that's the other critical difference, is this is all in a server. That server could be in the cloud, that server could be in your cloud, could be in Adobe Cloud, or that could be on-prem. So a server is now handling all of that. That also means that security between the REST APIs and the databases and the AEM Forms server can be handled in an appropriate way, all connected together. So that's how we do it. But the essence is exactly the same. We're going to take a piece of data, we're going to take a template, we're going to merge the two together, and we're going to produce a PDF. The other thing with AEM is it is built and structured to handle very large volumes and potentially very, very high transaction speed. So we can do this. We know of organizations that are producing 50,000 merged forms a minute kind of scenario, or millions of documents a year that are being sent out. So that's an enterprise solution designed for that. So now let's contrast it with the Document Cloud. So the Document Cloud, same thing. It takes data, merges it into a template, and produces a PDF. In this case, though, the template is Word. Now, that's good because many people have Word, if not everybody has Word. That's a risk because Word doesn't give you the kind of controls that the form designer. It's not optimized for that. It also means that you're limited in the types of fields and the nature of the information that you can insert there. Effectively, what you're doing is you're taking a Word document and making a mail merge out of it. If you've ever done the double brace brackets scenario inside of Word, well, that's what you're doing. You're putting a double brace brackets, that's a field name. The data for that field is going to be aligned with that and inserted in there. Great, that's fantastic. But it is Word. If you've ever gone into Word and you put an image in a Word document, whoa, it just restructured everything for me. Well, let's make it so that it's put to the back. Oh, wait, everything's on top of it. So you need then a layer of expertise on Word as to how to make the forms, how to design them, how to control them so that people aren't touching it, changing the word layout so that it's locked down, all of those kinds of things. So you need a layer of control on top of it, but it's Word, it's very powerful. Now, in terms of automation, the automation is available in Word, but it requires then that you use the Word scripting language inside of there to write all of those pieces. Okay, can you do it? Yes, you can. Is it as straightforward as JavaScript inside of a form designer? I don't think so, but that's an opinion. If you're comfortable inside of Word scripting, there's a lot of things that you can do. Now, it doesn't support all of the different data types that you might need inside of a dynamic form. And it doesn't support section controls, and it doesn't support a lot of what we call fragments, which make life easier when you're dealing with thousands or tens of thousands of form documents. But for a small number of form documents, that can be very effective. Now, how do you get the data and the template merged together? You've got to feed those into the Doc Cloud API. You've got to be able to send them to Adobe so that Adobe can merge them together and bring them back. Okay. The way that's recommended, and if you view the samples, and I encourage you to go have a look at the samples. If you look at the samples, the way that they recommend is Microsoft Power Automate. Excellent tool. Okay, does a lot of really good stuff. There's built-in functionality, so you can just drag and drop, and it knows, oh, there's the object. So then you create a Power Automate script that knows, where am I going to go get the data? I'm going to go get the data from Salesforce. Okay, pull the data out of Salesforce. Now you've got a JSON blob inside of there. Now you can match that, merge that in, and push that into the template using the API mechanism. So that gives you the ability to combine the data from somewhere into the form template, the Word document, and it'll produce a PDF out there. So with some work, you can duplicate what you've done now. That's great. So some other challenges. First off is Power Automate is either running locally on your system, so not on a server, or it's running in the Microsoft Cloud. So it's the Microsoft Cloud talking to potentially your APIs or a third-party APIs or a database, and then talking to the Adobe Cloud. So now you've got data that's moving through multiple different areas, all right? And that has to be looked at very, very carefully from both a security perspective, but more importantly, from PII and a sensitivity perspective. If any of that data that is moving around, it's moving through different clouds, isn't data that can go outside of your organization, then that may be an issue for you. The other scenario is that you've got the data being moved across, is if the data has to be pulled from multiple sources, now you have a more complex Power Automate script. It can absolutely handle it, but you have a more complex Power Automate script. Now, do you have to use Power Automate? No, it's an API. Okay, I personally like Python. Could I write a piece of Python code local and then put it on the server and make the call from there? Yes, you could. Now, but though, what you're into is you're into application development. So this gives you application development, gives you the ability to get a good PDF out of there. That's great. That's a good way to do it. And if you're writing your own applications, whether they're web applications or back-end applications or whatever, and you need a PDF out of there, okay, this is a good way. And in many respects, it's better than some of the libraries that are out there. It's supported by Adobe. It's a core functionality inside of the Document Cloud. So it's a really good solution you should look at if you're building your own applications. That's a great way to do that. By the same token, you can also call AEM, right? So again, where is the breakpoint associated? One is that we find that for large volumes of form templates and for dynamic form templates, Word is not going to cut it. Word is not strong enough to be able to do what we need to do. Let me give you an example, and I've talked about this example in the past. For one organization, a large manufacturing organization, they needed to deal with 60 countries, 25 different languages, 10 different invoice types, and 15 different customer preferences, so that they could feed it a piece of data and the document being rendered would dynamically adjust itself, either showing all of the details, none of the details, just a summary page, taxes only under this circumstances, this for this country, 3 decimal places for currency on that country, a signature block for that country, oh, this special receipt with a QR code and special information for that country, all of that. That's the kind of scenario, and 4.5 million produced a year. That's a kind of scenario where AEM shines. Could you have done it in Doc Cloud? Yes, but now you'd be dealing with thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Word documents that were the templates, because you'd have one for every country, one for every language. We were able to reduce that down because we could use fragments because of the power that AEM gives us, whereas the Document Cloud doesn't give us that. It pushes the requirement down to us because all it does is let you merge the data and the template together. So that's another example. But there are definitely circumstances where using that would give you access to functionality you may not have, or that you'd have to do as a third-party library. You'd have to pay for it, or open source it, or however you had to deal with it, right? So that managing the volume of templates and fragments and the behaviors of those in an effective way past a certain point, and that point's going to vary depending on who you are and what your organization is doing, but past a certain point, okay, you really want a dedicated environment that's geared to just do that. But for a small number that need to be produced locally, or a small number that can be controlled by a series of simple script, a JavaScript environment on a website, or Python or Java on a backend server that's pulling data from it, okay, and you only have a few, and Word gives you enough control, and you can hide the Word documents from people, that may work really well. And so that may be the piece to do it. One of the other areas, and we don't have a lot of data on this, but is the concern over high volume performance. Rendering the document through a PDF, you're going into the Adobe environment. How long is that going to take? And now, for, again, a small volume of documents, and it takes, 30 seconds, 15 seconds to render a document, that's not so bad, okay? But if you have to render tens of thousands of those every minute, that may not be sufficient for what you need to do. And you can't just throw more hardware at it because you don't have the hardware. So those are the different areas in the comparison between them. It is a very, very powerful capability. It is very much something that you should look at if you have a small number or a very constrained number of templates. If you're doing it inside of other applications that you're building and you need PDF capabilities and you don't want to use a library, or the libraries are not giving you the functionality that you want, this is a good way of doing it. It allows you to take advantage of all of the newest functions from Adobe. It's supported by Adobe, so that's excellent. But it is using a Word template, which is not optimal, and it provides no mechanisms for integrating these. You have to build the integration pieces that yourself, versus Adobe Experience Manager, which has all of those functionalities available to you inside of that environment, allows you to merge the data from multiple data sources, bring that information together, and produce it in a highly dynamic fashion. And the last piece is what I mentioned before, is if your data can't move around, then using the Adobe API may not be the best way to go, and that needs to be taken into consideration. Whereas AEM can be put on-prem or put inside of a VPN, managed in your cloud so that it's all controlled, managed in the Adobe cloud at a FedRAMP level. All of those are possibilities that give you a much more robust enterprise-oriented solution. So I hope that that gives you enough of a background to understand the differences between those two scenarios. But certainly, if you do have any other questions and would like to understand how Adobe Experience Manager would differ from this, where it should be applied in it, please give us a call. We'd be happy to chat with you about it. Thanks and take care.